In this series of videos, my objective is to prepare a beginner's tutorial into this new data preparation tool that has been in beta by Tableau. This is named Mastro. So the tool is new, but I think it has a lot of promise. I played with the tool in a live customer scenario and I'm very pleased with the results. So I wanted to create a set of videos that are based on real life scenarios. Here is the scenario that I've just encountered in this customer. So we will get into Mastro and see how Mastro can help solve the problem. Here is the typical problem that I see in a lot of customer places. So let me explain the problem and then you will see how it is applicable to your scenario. So in this customer place, we have data that is in two different ERP systems. And then we needed to combine this data into data warehouse. We have customer masters, the same customer with different numbers. A lot of typical problems that are there in any enterprise, whether big or small, that I've seen this in across the world now in different countries. Companies with different maturity levels. The moment there are two different systems, there are lots of problems in combining the data. So what Tableau does is, once this data is combined into the data warehouse, Tableau connects to the data warehouse and generates the reports. Now, as a first step to ensuring that the reports in Tableau is correct, so we need to validate whether the data in Tableau is correct. So that is what we want to do. Typically, a manual approach is taken. So people take some of the reports and then they validate number by number. But I'm a fan of automating things because things could change and we want to ensure this as a process regularly, so that a lot of effort is not needed to redo this. So here is the solution approach I have used a number of times in the past. So first, I want to take a report from the front end of these ERPs in Excel. As almost all the ERPs, market leading ERPs and many softwares, they have this export to Excel feature. So we go to the front end. Typically, I take a month-wise. Here I'm dealing with sales data, so a month-wise sales data for a number of years. So in this case, we have migrated between ERPs. So I want to take some data from the old ERP, some data from new ERP. So I've taken 2 years of data. And then I would take the data from Tableau, which is coming from the data warehouse, and then I will again export this data into Excel using the similar structure, a month-wise sales data for these companies. And then I would merge these Excels, and then previously, before I used some of these tools, I would use things like VLOOKUP and some of the Excel wizardry to get this through. But with the availability of modern ETL tools like Alteryx and now Mastro and even Power Query on the Microsoft Excel side, free side, this process is much easier. I've tried a number of tools. So here my job is to see how Mastro will fare here. If I find time, I want to do this same tutorial on Alteryx and Power Query also to see how the experience compares across these tools. Anyway, for now, so this is the problem setup. So I'll show you the source data, the report from the ERPs, as well as the report from the Tableau, and then what output I'm looking to generate, and then we will get into Mastro. So here is the sales report that came from the ERP. So I've this is based on real customer data. So I've scrambled the numbers, gave the names that you can easily recognize, I hope. So I have 2 years worth of data, as you can see here. So 2016 and 17. This is how the data has been given to me. Yeah. So the challenge is, how do I take data like this and then use it to automate stuff, right? So this is the first Excel. And this is the sales report that is taken from Tableau. So I have run this report and then taken it out of Tableau and scrambled the numbers. That's why I can't show you the Tableau version of it. But now I think you can see. So we are dealing with two companies, Coke and Pepsi, and then we have about 24 months of data, as you can see here. So that's all we have. Yeah. So here in India, the financial year runs from April to March. So we have 2 financial years of data. So now what's the output that we want? So here is the output I want. For each month, for each company, I want the numbers from both the ERP front end as well as from Tableau side by side and the diff here. So here I've applied some Excel conditional formatting so that you can see. So if I sort this by the biggest differences, I'm seeing which are the biggest differences. If I sort this in the reverse way, so these are negligible, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, they are all okay because rounding off differences, they could come. But things that are really on the other side, these are serious. So we want to go and explore. So this is the setup, right? So how do we get to a report like this using Mastro, starting from those two Excels? That's our job. So let's get into Mastro and see how this works. Here is the Mastro's opening welcome screen where recent flows are listed. So to create a new flow, you need to click on this button called connect to data. So when you click on this, you will get the familiar connect to the dialog box that we have seen in Tableau. So typically I use drag and drop, but for this first tutorial, let's use this standard dialog box. So now I want this report. There are number of things here. So sales report from ERP for validation. That's the report we want. So I say open, and you can see this screen is again very similar to Tableau. So let's just look. So there is a sheet called ERP data. Let me show you the Excel so that you can keep that as an image while we are looking at this. Here is the Excel. So if you see this Excel, there are a number of problems with the Excel. Typically, any tool will expect you to have the first row as columns, and then the first value should be A1 here should be the month, and then company name, whatever, right? But here they are in the second row, and the first row is containing merged cells. Typical Excel behavior. This is the kind of Excel a lot of users give us, right? So how do we deal with the case like this? So the data really starts from third row itself. The column should be coming here, and then there is total which is repeated here, and then we do not want this 2017-18. We do not want this total also. So we have a lot of work to do. How do we get this into Mastro and then get it into the shape that we want? So let's see. So here, as expected, Mastro is confused. So it is interpreting F1, F2 means field 1, field 2, like in Tableau, and then it is giving you sample values like this. To really see this in a same format like Excel, what I would do is, so click on this. So now these are the transformations or changes that you can do to your data in Mastro. There are 5-6 options. For now, let's go with the first one. It is called add step. So what does step mean? So let's see. So actually it gives the name clean one. So this is the term. Step is the default one where it gives you what we call a profiler view. It goes and checks all the unique values in each of the columns and then provides a bar chart, which can be sorted by the frequency, the count, or sorted alphabetically like it is shown here. And then when you click on the bar, for example, I click on this bar which represents only one row, in the bottom view gives you the actual row itself. So if I click on this null which represents 4 rows, we see that, right? So it's an interactive way to visually see the data much better than actually seeing it in Excel. And I'm really glad to see, because a number of ETL tools makes this job very difficult. I remember seeing one promising tool from Talent, but it has not really come into commercial market. So you need to basically see a profile view, which is a summary, and then from there you can see and act on your data. So literally, so if you see this 2016, this null we don't really need, right? So we can start cleaning it up from here. But before that, we need to really see whether is this how we want to do, or is there a better way. If you remember, in Tableau we have this concept called data interpreter, which works with complex structures like this Excel structures and does a good job. So let's go back here and then use data interpreter. I'm gonna go here. So look at these field names. Now I'm gonna turn this on. Wow, so data interpreter has done a great job. So as you can see, sample values are here. So now let's go back to our profile view, and column names have come properly. Tableau, this data interpreter has done a very good job, right? So there are a few issues. Let's check them. So there are nulls here. So let's check what these nulls are. So these nulls are giving us the first row, the empty first row, and then the 2 total rows. As you can see here, this is interpreted as a null row, and then this total row, and then this total row. These are the 3 rows we don't want. So by filtering out null, we can get rid of these 3 rows. Let's do that. So I'm gonna click click on this bar, right, and then click on exclude. So look at what happens. Pay attention to this area. So this is the area that gives you what are the changes you are doing in each of these steps, right? So I'm going to click on this null and then click on exclude. And then now it is saying we have added a filter on this column called COK. If I click on this change, it is highlighting on which column it is, and then bottom also it is showing you which column it is. This is the code for Coke and Pepsi, if you haven't gotten it so far, right? So and then we are excluding null. So reasonably very good. So I can for example remove this filter. In that case I get everything back. I can go back and forward like in Tableau. Very nice. So they've made the user experience very consistent. So this is something I really like. Yeah, so we got this through. So now let's minimize this and then see is there anything else we want to do. So we want to look at this total cell. So there being a new tool, it has some of these quirks. So there is the scroll bar coming really at the end here. So the way I have found is go back to a previous step, come back, many a times it sets. Yeah, so like in Windows, sometimes we have to restart things to make it work. So the same thing works here also. So we really don't want the total. So if we are combining these two, so we don't really want the total. So I click here and then there is option to remove field here. The nice thing is it gives you 3-4 options. If you want more, you can right click and you will see. If something is available here itself, why would I use the right click? So I'm going to remove this field. Now you can see the changes are captured here. So if I go to the previous step, total is still there and it is showing this filter is done here, and then next step total is removed. Yeah. So as you would be able to visually see the changes that are being made to each of these things. This is something that's beautiful. Most of the end users love this. I've worked with my customer who is a business owner, who is not a technical person at all, and he was able to really understand and follow what I was doing, right? So this is really great. So now we have done this. So now what is the next step? So what we want really, so let's go into the other Excel and see what is the final output we want. If you see here, companies is a separate column, and then we have the two numbers, and then we have a difference, right? So how do we take something that is occurring here, like Pepsi, Coke is here as two columns, and then put them as rows? This operation is called pivot. This is not a very intuitive term. Actually, it's a wrong use of the term itself. But let me not get there. So let's just understand how to do this here in Mastro. So if I click on this step, there is this option called pivot. Yeah. So if I do this, so the nice image tells you what operation is happening. So we are taking values which are in columns and then bringing them down to rows, right? So these are the fields here. As you can see, we have a field called month, Coke and Pepsi, right? So we want to replace this Coke and Pepsi with basically a column. So I'm going to drag and drop here. It is saying, so now as you can see, it has given this column, new column called pivot names. That's where this is going, and pivot values. So we want basically, rather than pivot names, we want this to be called company, and this to be called, for example, sales from Tableau. Very intuitive. You don't need to refer to manuals and anything. So it is moving around the column names because probably it wants to keep the pivoted values at the beginning. This is fine. So now we need to add the Pepsi thing also. Now as you can see, everything has come in properly. Yeah. So this is looking good. Yeah. So let me add one more visualize step which is less crowded so that we can see it properly. So now we can see how things are working. So we can move the order of these things. Yeah, so company, sales from Tableau, and month, maybe month here. So I can do it in either of the views. Yeah, so now let's check this against the original and see whether this let's check this against the Tableau and then see whether there is. So here we are using code. In Tableau it's using full name. Let's see that. So here we can see this is using full name, Coke and Pepsi. So we need to do that also, edit this out. How do we do that? So what I want to do is to rename this. So from COK to proper full name. So I do Coke and look at what's happening. So by doing this, so this seems to be a bug in the tool, because in the previous step we are seeing all the records. The moment I do the replacement, all the records are vanishing. It has worked in the last test scenario I did, so now it is not working. So what we need to do is to find an alternative. So I'm going to remove these steps. That brings me all the data back. So what I'm going to do is kind of trick the tool. So I'm going to go here and then do the changes here in another step. So this is Coke. So I come forward to see whether it's working. It's working properly. As you can see in this company name here, so it is working. The pep is still there. So I'm going to go to the previous step, and then here I use the name. As you can see very nicely, so the each step is visualizable. Each column where it is happening, both in this profiler view as well as in the data view, they are highlighted. So these are all very helpful steps. So let's come here. So now Coke and Pepsi is done. Yeah. So now then the next question is, so if you see here, this month is April 16, 17, right? So this is alphabetical because it's recognized as ABC. And then sales is also recognized as a string. So this is easy to do. Like in Tableau, I click on this icon. I can say this is a whole number for now to make it simple. So now this gives me a nice bar that gives me different distributions and stuff. This is good. No problem for us. We are not concerned about this bins. This is useful. But now my concern is this. I want this to be actual month itself, right? So how do I do that? In a typical case, I need to do parsing and then coding, a lot of these things. The beautiful thing about Mastro, which it has picked up from Tableau, is it is able to handle a lot of complex date strings. So I say date and wow, the magic has happened. This is something that's absolutely impressive for me. I'm a professional in this area and I work on a lot of different tools. And this is absolutely the best experience in terms of, no coding, nothing. I right click and it has gotten everything properly in order, as you can see here. So this is giving me a histogram of 2016 and then 2017 and then 2018, something like this, right? So beautifully done. So when you click on this, for example, here I have from 1st of January in 2016 to 17, focus on the tooltip. It is saying 9 values in this bin, in this bucket, right? And that translates into 18 rows. As you can, if you go down, you would be able to see 18 rows. Ideally, if there was a row number, that would have made things easier, as well as maybe at the bottom some indication like Excel, the total number of rows, some count, some sort of statistics would have been a nice addition for Mastro as well. And then it is saying how much is highlighted, because this is where we clicked on this. So all the 18 rows are highlighted. But look at what's happening in the previous column. So originally this Coke has 24 rows. But within this data range, which is 2016 to 17, these 9 values, out of them, this is 9 is highlighted here. So 18 values are here. Out of them, 9 is coming from Coke, 9 is coming from Pepsi, right? And then if I go to any one of the single things, now you can see these are 7 rows. The big bar is showing you 7 and the blue highlight is showing 2. So, and then it gives you a percentage. A very, very useful thing in a real scenario where we are taking huge amount of data. This is very simple data, just 48 records to keep things simple. But in a real scenario, I've used this in a real scenario where we have millions of records and then we needed to sift through and understand what's going on. This is very useful. What it does not do is, so once I click on somewhere else, all the thing is gone. It does not progressively save. For example, I click on this one. Now this is the only highlight and the rest is gone. Ideally, I would like to click on this and then within this I want to have Coke and then see how the rest flows through. But maybe they've kept it simple. Maybe in the future versions this will be fixed. So now so we got the data that we want. So pretty much this is cool. So except for this, so let's give it a proper thing. So now this is exactly what we want. So now let's bring the next report from Tableau or the next Excel and then see how we can put them side by side. So I'm gonna create a little bit more space here. This time I'm gonna use drag and drop. So this is the sales report from Tableau. I'm gonna drag this and then bring it into Mastro and drop it here. As you can see on the left hand side, it's showing you the Excel and then what are the files here. So there's this file called scrambled data, which is where the actual data lives. I'm just going to double click, same experience like Tableau. So now it has gotten some fields, again F1, F3. So let me check why. As you can see here, the company, this is the first column, and then here there is empty rather than this thing being the first row. So this is messing it up. So again, let's invoke the data interpreter. So data interpreter has done the job. As you can see, the sample values are working fine. So let's add a profiler step. So now this is showing you April to this. So now this is familiar to you. It is using this company Coke and company Pepsi. So let's just remove that. This is data interpreter's job. It has taken that first one and gave us a prefix to the next one, which is typically nice, but in this case we don't need this, right? So now what are the issues? So these two, so let's have a little bit more space. So there are a lot of decimal points, so let's get rid of that. So let's consider that as a whole number. Same thing here. So this is simple done. And then month of invoice, as you can see, it is April. Two Aprils are coming next to each other. So we want that to be in proper order. Again, date will do the magic. Again, everything is coming in proper order, as we can see. Yeah. So this is beautiful. And one more thing I want to point out is, so this is showing you the total number of records. This is 24 unique values, right? So here 24 unique values, 24 unique values. So now we got both of these now things, right? So we have month of invoice date, Coke Pepsi, and then we have month company Coke Pepsi. So we need to do a pivoting here also, so that Coke and Pepsi are here. So now this should be familiar to you. I'm gonna drag this over here, then this over here, and then pivot name. So let's call it company. So sales data from Tableau, so that we have and then here this is called month. So let's call this also here as month. Yeah, so they are looking good. So now the question is, should we merge them? What do we do to merge them? So there are two operations. If you see, the structure is exactly the same, right? So the company month and sales, company month and the sale, right? So let me put a step here so that they are clear. So they are, you can see they are the same, right? I've intentionally left the ordering is different because Tableau can handle that. There's no problem with that. So ideally, when we have the same structure, we want to put them one on top of another. This is called basically union, right? So you stack things like a Lego block. We stack one on top of another. But in this case, we do not want to stack. We want to put them side by side. For example, for each company, for each month, I want this as one column, and then I want the second column as the number which is coming from here. And then I want to basically sales from Tableau and then sales from, okay, I think I made a mistake here. So this should have been called sales from ERP. So sales from ERP and sales from Tableau together. So to do a join or merge, what you need to do is just pull one of these things and then bring it closer here. So beautifully, if you drag it at the bottom, like top to bottom, it is giving you union. On the side, this is a join. This is very beautiful, even better than what Tableau has done, right? Very intuitive, because join is about side by side, union is about one on top of another. So we want to put them side by side. I put it here. So whatever you are dragging, so see what will happen here. So now a lot of different things have come. So one, it has put a join, and then it's showing you this Venn diagram. And then, so look at what has happened here. So a lot of beautiful things have happened, and Tableau is doing wonderful things. Sorry, I keep using the word Tableau instead of Mastro, but for me they are the same. So bear with me on that. So first, it has found out that there is a match, right? Similar names. So company. So it has added that as a join clause. And then typically it has used inner join. That means the records, if they are matching, if this company field is there in both the data sets, it would be retained. Otherwise, it would be dropped. Many a time this is not what we want. I actually I would like these ETL tools to deal with full inner join or full outer join. Actually, keep everything on the left, and then bring basically only the matching fields from the right. Very few times actually we need the inner join. Most of the times we want actually full outer join. So I hope Mastro team is able to keep that as the default rather than the inner join as a default. Yeah, in my experience, I've rarely seen inner join actually helpful. In a lot of data scenarios, inner join drops data and we want to know that data. So that in that case, the left outer join, that means keep all the data from the left as the Venn diagram is showing and bring only the matching data from the right. So if you see this, so let's click on the inner join itself. So it is showing you this is clean 2, clean 4. So let's give it a different name. So ERP data, and then so Tableau report. So now as you can see, Tableau report is taken as the left side and ERP data is taken as the right side. There is no easy way to swap the direction, except I could actually remove this, and then if I drag and drop it here, then this order changes. So wherever you are kind of keeping as the, so keep left as the first one, whatever you're dragging on top becomes the right one, right? So that is how it to change the order. So I prefer this ERP data as the first one, Tableau report as the right one, right? So what is the Mastro showing you here? First, whatever fields you are adding here, those two values are listed here separately. So, and then there is color here. So ERP data has this blue color, Tableau report has this yellow color. So that is shown here. So there are two values here, two values here. And then if you see here, joined results. So if I bring this, so you will be able to see all the joined values, right? So all the columns from both the places. And then here is the beautiful thing. So here it is showing you what is the data that is included. So there is 48 records coming from ERP data, 48 records coming from Tableau report, and the joint result is 1152 records, right? So why is that? Because this is taking a company and then finding another company on the right hand side. For each company here on the right hand side, there would be actually 24 values. So that is how it is multiplied. So we need to add a join clause so that month is also included. Here is where this is doing beautiful work. Wherever the column names are the same, it is listing that. Even when the column names are slightly different, it is listing this. All I need to do is a lazy man's job, click on plus, and it is getting added and everything gets matched up. So now we can see, so let me expand this a little bit. So two columns are used for matching up, as you can see here, and everything is matching up. In a scenario where things are not matching up, in one of the future scenarios I will do, it shows in red what is not matching up. I mean, very beautiful. I'm really impressed with this whole join experience. What I find to be a little bit difficult is how this is working and how this is working, especially when we were mismatched and stuff. So that I will come out in a different tutorial. But for now, things seem to be matching. Because all the records are matching, there's no problem with going with inner join. So now this is done. So now again I want to visualize, I want to really see how things look in an uncluttered fashion. So let me add a step, which is the visualizer or the profiler. So now this shows you there is company one, and then there is also month coming twice. So we don't want that. So let's remove one of the months, and then company one. So let's remove company one also again. So now we have this sales data from Tableau, sales data from ERP. So let's move it to here. So now we are able to see things properly. Yeah. So now I can see for this Coke, what is the sales, and then for this period, or in this zero kind of set, 0 to 1 million, what are the values, and then some high values also. These are scrambled numbers. This is fine. So now we need to do a diff between these two columns. So we need to create a calculated field. Very simple. So the language used is the same as Tableau. So I can click on one of the fields, and then so I take this as the base. So create calculated field. So I call it diff, and then minus, same like Tableau. I click and it does autocomplete sales from Tableau, and then say apply. It basically adds a column, as you can see here. It is not very clear. It is on the left hand side. It has added as the first column. So let me save. We can see it here. So now if you, here is where I think, so this is having a lot of different values. This is scrambled data. It is a lot more values than reality. So this histogram is not very helpful for the first time. So let's right click and then see a detail view. Typically it does this histogram which summarizes. We can also get into detail. Now it is showing you each one of them is an individual row. So in 0 case there are 14 rows, 1 case there are 11 rows, and then this is all fine. These are all rounding off numbers. Bigger numbers are not fine, so we need to investigate. For example, the 64,000 why it's coming this. So this is not real the data. I've scrambled the data, that's why you see a lot of these values. Yeah. So with that done, so this is the real thing we want. Now we are ready to really take this data and put it into output into Excel. So what type of output can it do? So if I right click here, so we have not used aggregate, which is nothing but grouping things and then like a generate report. Pivot we have used join. Union is doing the same structure. We have pretty much covered that. And then let's cover output. Aggregation we don't need to do because our data itself is aggregated. In case we have sales date day wise, we could have aggregated that into month. Yeah. So let's do an output here. So if you see the output, so now the configuration is showing you how the output is, what is the, so you can either save it to a file or publish as a data source. So if I click on publish as a data source, it is asking me either your local server or Tableau online so that you can directly publish this. So for now, so we want to save it to as a file. So the options are, so there are 3 options. 2 are Tableau specific, the latest 10.5 hyper, and then the Tableau data extract TDE, and then comma separated values. This is our resort. We cannot do Excel, so let's take a CSV and then from there take it to Excel. Yeah. So in the real customer data set, I have used hyper because we have huge amount of data and hyper did an extremely good job. I do not have problem with TDE also really, but then hyper definitely is better in terms of performance. My friend Ken Black in his blog actually has done a detailed case study. So I might link to that here in this video. You can check. So he has proved that hyper actually has a huge improvement in performance. I take his word. Yeah. So but my experience also confirms that. It comes up with this nice name. I wish it has done something a little bit more intuitive, like output 1 or 2 is even better. But yeah, so even I mean, in these cases I would still expect it to do something better, but for now it is fine. So I can give it, for example, I want to call it a dummy because I already have something like this. So and I'm gonna put that as a CSV file. So I can save it to a different folder. So it is by default showing to you the beta folder, but what I want is a different folder. So I want to put it in the same folder, say accept. So now you can either click here to run the flow or you can click here to run the flow. I run the flow. So it has done, I mean, less than a second, and it has exported the CSV. So let's go there and check what it has done. So here is the CSV. So I got the CSV here. So this is all good. So the column orders could have been different. I could have changed it there. So let me do that just to show you how things really work. So in this step, basically, so I want to take TAFE and put it after this. So I have company, month, and then I even want company after. So month, company, sales from ERP, sales from Tableau, right? So rather than calling it sales data, so I would want to call it sales from Tableau. I'm just demonstrating you simple features and then time to run again. So the nice thing is it is giving you this warning. You already have this output name, and then so running this will replace this. I found this to be extremely helpful. Yeah. So because sometimes we might just do this accidentally. Ideally, we need a way to turn this off because many a times we would be running it daily to replace the data. So in that case, we want to do it without manual intervention. So hopefully in the next versions, Tableau or Mastro will have an option to just avoid this checkbox, at least for certain flows. So again, in 0 seconds, it is done. So let's go and check that. Right. So now I'm gonna do some conditional formatting. So here I want to select all of these areas. and go in Excel and then use this conditional formatting because numbers are involved. This out. So this is showing you, yeah, the biggest differences. So they are sorted here. So now I can save it as an Excel. Yeah. So we have started off with data like this from ERP, and then we had Tableau data which was in this format, and then we were able to get, yeah. So hopefully so this was useful for you to understand the different functionalities of Mastro. The only thing I have not covered is the grouping itself, so maybe why not just take a quick look at that. Here what we want to do is to do a group by operation. So how do I insert this in the middle, right? So if I now go and click on plus, each one of them have this plus option. So let me do this here. So you have a new option called add branch. This comes whenever I think you have a output flow and then you want to add instead of another parallel branch that continues. So I can click on this branch. So now there is this new branch created. So now in this I can, instead of clean, I actually want an aggregate operation, right? So that's what I want to do. So here this has come. So if you see this area, the experience is very similar to Tableau, but though it a little bit more complicated. So in Tableau, we used to see dimensions at the top, numbers, the measures at the bottom. Here it has listed all of them, right? I don't know in what order. Yeah, maybe the order that is coming in the data source, like this order month company, the same order. Yes, I think, oh no, that is also changed. Some order, some logic it is using. For dimensions, it's using the word group. For the numbers, it's using sum as the default thing. I would prefer that it sticks to the Tableau convention, dimension and group, rather than, typical Tableau business users getting confused with things like group. Yeah. Anyway, the nice thing is, so I can just double click on this. For example, I want to, let's say, group by company only. I want to generate a report that shows me what's the Coke and Pepsi's total from sales from Tableau and sales from this, right? So this is how this is done. So now how does the report look? Actually there is a third pane that is available at the bottom, but it is hidden. So this is one of the areas I think as a beta tool it still has to improve. So you see Pepsi and this, and then this is the value you are able to see. Yeah, so now this is fine. So other trick that I found is you can press control minus, and then it actually expands or minimizes it, or shrinks or zooms in and out, which is also sometimes quite helpful. The scroll bars are not yet fixed. It is a problem. Yeah, so but for now I think we can even minimize the screen. This looks good. So now we have sales data. So now let's again so we have done this aggregation part. We want to change the aggregation, so you have these options. So let me expand this a little bit. So you can see you have all the things that are available in Tableau itself, right? And then you can also use a number as a group by column if you really want to do that, right? So many cases we will not want to do that, but there could be cases where this is useful also. So very consistent with Tableau, how we have done this in Tableau. It picks up the default, it does the things. And then now I want to output this also, like for example, so this one I'm gonna output in hyper format just to see how this works. I'm gonna stick to all the defaults, and then I click on this run flow. So flow is done. So I'm gonna open this folder. Ideally, I would have liked it to just have a option to click here and then open that file, or at least go to that folder. Those are options I remember Alteryx had. As you can see, the output is here. So it is a hyper file. If I double click on this hyper file, it will open in Tableau, and we would be able to see how this looks. So it is coming as just 2 rows in Tableau. Yeah, so this is giving you the area where I would probably like Mastro to improve is this naming conventions. So they are all, it is all called extract. So if I have multiple extracts, they are all called extract. So some amount of improvement can be done there in terms of what the naming conventions are. Otherwise this is good enough. So now coming back, so we have two workflows, right? So how do I run them both? So you have options, so you can go to flow and then run them all together as one thing also. Let me do that so that you can see how that looks like. So now it is giving us this warning that it will replace some of these files. We say okay. So it's running, two outputs are done. So little more information about the flow and what it has done in addition to the actual files, ability to click and go there. These are things that would be helpful. And also here, when I change it to in this flow, I changed it to another folder, and then when I create a new flow, it is going back to its own old default folder, which is into the repository thing. So remembering that would also be helpful. So that's all, I think. So through this project, we have seen a more or less comprehensive overview of Mastro itself. I've covered most of the functionality of Mastro. So you have a few options here which are like this. So you can refresh. For example, I can refresh the ERP data if it has changed. So it does this job, and then you can also run one of these outputs, which are rather than clicking here, you can go here and do that also. So you can publish this output to Tableau server online itself. So those are the things that we have covered. So let me see whether there's, you can export this as a package flow. I don't know what is the use of it as of now, so I can save as and then work on another, I mean duplicate, and then do things from there. Some of the things that I would like it to do is, for example, I'm not able to actually click something and then duplicate and then kind of change the connection. These are things I hopefully will be fixed in the upcoming beta versions. Otherwise, for a first beta version, this tool is really brilliant. So it has allowed us to take a really complex data source, though it has a few records, and then change this into different shapes, and then help us to accomplish this. The nice thing is, now if the data changes in the background, for example in the ERP we found some issues, or in our data warehouse we found some issues in the logic transformation logics that is written in typically these ETL tools or SQL scripts, and then we change that, now the whole flow can be run and then we can see the output very quickly. Yeah, so this is I have actually demonstrated the output as a CSV file. In a real case, I will actually take it to Tableau itself, so that I can visualize this output in Tableau itself. Yeah, so the whole process can be automated. So there is a lot of value to a tool like this. In future, maybe I can get into some more tutorials on how join works, especially when we have different mismatched data, as well as how the merge operations work, because joins and merges, these are the two most common uses of data preparation tools, and I want to prepare some data that shows you the power of a tool like this. And thank you Mastro team, thank you Tableau team, and thank you for watching.